What if the biggest threat to your wealth in 2026 is not inflation? It's not unemployment, not even a financial crash, but the money sitting safely in your bank account right now. Because while you think you are saving, your money could actually be shrinking in value every single day. And the people who understand this early are not working harder. They are repositioning their wealth into assets that actually survive currency collapse. If you might remember, when we talked about inflation, I made a point about the fact that I made a point. If you remember, once I was in my video talking about inflation, I made a point about how you need to acquire assets to hedge against inflation. In this video, I will break down 5 deflationary assets that can protect your wealth during the 2026 currency crisis and how smart investors are using them to stay ahead while everyone else falls behind. Stay with me till the end because the last asset is the most people completely ignore, yet often creates generational wealth. And I'm going to break it down into 2 parts. So stick and stay with me for both part 1 and part 2, which will be 2 different videos. Let's start with something most people don't realize. A currency crisis does not always mean money disappears overnight. Sometimes it happens slowly. Your currency loses strength, prices of goods go up, your salary stays the same, and suddenly your money can buy less food, less fuel, less everything. This is called currency devaluation, and it quietly destroys wealth. Across many economies in Africa and beyond, this is not theory. It is the reality people experience daily. So the real question becomes, how do you protect your wealth when money itself is losing value? The answer is not just savings anymore or saving more. It is understanding something called deflationary assets. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to break them down in a simple way so you can actually use this knowledge in real life. One may ask, what are deflationary assets? A deflationary asset is an asset that becomes more scarce over time or has a limited supply that cannot easily be increased. Think of it like this. If money is like water flowing freely from a tap, deflationary assets are like containers that don't expand easily. So when currency loses value, this asset tends to hold value better or even increase in value because they are limited in supply. Now, don't confuse this with inflation-resistant assets. Inflation-resistant assets simply try to keep up with rising prices. But deflationary assets go further. They rely on scarcity, demand, and long-term trust. Let me simplify it even more. If everyone can print it, it loses value. If no one can easily create more of it, it preserves value. That's the foundation of wealth protection. Now, let's break down the first asset. Asset number 1, Bitcoin. Let's start with the most controversial, but also one of the most discussed assets in modern finance, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a digital asset with a fixed supply of 21 million coins. No government can print more of it. No central bank can inflate it. That makes it fundamentally scarce. Why it matters during currency crisis is that when flat currencies weaken, investors often look for assets outside government control. Bitcoin becomes attractive because supply is limited, it operates globally, it is not tied to any single country's economy. Some of the advantages of it is that it's highly portable. You can move it across borders, and it's also limited in supply, scarcity driven in value, increasing global adoption. But it has some risks too. And some of the risks are extreme volatility, regulatory uncertainty, requires digital literacy. There are some people that this type of asset is very good for. And some of them are long-term investors, high-risk tolerant individuals, people looking for alternative stores of value. In countries facing currency instability, Bitcoin has often been used as a digital hedge, although not without risk. But there is a key lesson here. Bitcoin is not about short-term profit. It's about long-term scarcity protection. Now let's move to something more traditional. Asset number 2, gold. Gold is one of the oldest stores of value in human history. Unlike paper money, gold cannot be printed or digitally created. It must be mined, refined, and processed, making supply naturally limited. Why gold matters is that throughout history, when currencies weaken or collapse, gold tends to retain purchasing power. It doesn't depend on government stability, banking systems, digital infrastructures. Some common advantages may include globally recognized in value. Everybody in the world knows what gold is and they value it the same. Long history of wealth preservation. It is the most historic thing you can ever think of when it comes to wealth preservation. Less volatility than crypto. It is not as volatile as Bitcoin, but there are also some risks associated with having gold. It does not generate income. Storage and security concerns. People might even steal it. Slow price movement compared to other assets. The prices of gold don't move so fast like Bitcoin. In many African economies, gold has historically been a quiet hedge against inflation and currency weaknesses, especially when local currencies fluctuate. The best people to keep gold as a protectionary asset: conservative investors, wealth preservers, not speculators, long-term stability seekers. So while Bitcoin represents digital scarcity, gold represents physical scarcity. Now, let's move into something more practical and often overlooked. Deflationary asset number 3, productive farmland. This is where many people underestimate wealth building. Land itself is important, but productive farmland is even more powerful. And you may ask, why is the productive farmland even more important? Because it produces something that people need every single day: food. And food demands never disappears, even during crisis. Maybe you might be wondering, why is farmland deflationary in nature? And it is because you cannot easily create more fertile lands, especially in high demand regions. And also, population grows. Demand for food increases. Land becomes more valuable. Productivity becomes more important. Some simple advantages of having productive farmland as a deflationary asset is it produces real income, crops, livestock, hedges against inflation, tangible real world assets. But it doesn't mean it doesn't come with risk. It has risks too. Requires management and knowledge, climate and weather risks, illiquidity, because it is very hard to sell quickly. In countries like Ghana and across Africa, agriculture is still one of the most under-optimized sectors. That means opportunity is high, but so is the need for knowledge. This particular asset, productive farmland, is good for people who are looking to be long-term investors, entrepreneurs in agriculture, wealth builders seeking real assets. After all this is the key insight here. When money loses value, food-producing assets gain importance. Now, fellas, so far, you now understand why currency value can silently destroy wealth, what deflationary assets are, and the 3 powerful examples, which include Bitcoin, gold, and farmland. But here is where it gets even more interesting, because the next 2 assets are the ones most people overlook completely, yet they often create the strongest long-term wealth. Like I told you, this video is divided into part 1 and 2. And in part 2, we will break down high-quality dividend stocks, scarce real estate, the biggest mistake people make, and a simple action plan to start protecting your wealth immediately. Now, before we get into the part 2, if you've loved this video so far, Subscribe to Money Code Africa. Follow us on Facebook. We are on TikTok too. Give us a share, give us a like, because we are here to make your finances better. Stick and stay for part 2 of this video. See you in part 2.